We're back at the World Dairy Expo, and I'm joined now by Jack Rodenburg of RealAgriculture. Welcome, Jack. Thanks for taking some time to talk with us.
Happy to do so. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Now we're back. We're down in the United States, but you're obviously from Ontario, a long-time dairy specialist in Ontario. You saw your first robot in 1999. Maybe changed your life a little bit.
I actually saw a few in Europe before that, but that was the first one installed in North America, and it was about 30 miles from my office. And I was quite skeptical initially, and obviously the early models had their issues, but realized very quickly that the labor-saving opportunities are tremendous. The lifestyle benefits, especially for smaller dairies milking 100, 120 cows, are just wonderful. It just completely eliminates the drudgery of having to be there at a fixed time of day, 7 days a week. And it's a great labor saver as well.
Just building on labor saver, Jack, you presented here just to a bunch of group of farmers here at the World Dairy, and you talked about, you can expect 30 to 40% labor savings. You should, but sometimes you don't reach that because of the very fact that a lot of times barns aren't designed effectively.
Yeah, the average labor savings in a Dutch research study was 29% compared to milking parlors. I have clients who are doing way better than that, where it's around 40%. And I think some of the differences between the barns that surprise us with how effective they are and those that disappoint relate to having facilities for separating and handling cows, facilities for dealing with special needs cows like fresh cows and lame cows, and also the barns have to acknowledge and recognize that the cow's behavior is going to have an impact on her visiting behavior. And if you get those things right, I think you'll be happy with your barn.
Right. Let's talk a little bit more about optimizing cow comfort and some of the things that you recognize and recommend when you're designing a barn.
Well, a cow needs to be comfortable and have healthy feet especially. And so you need to have good, adequate sized free stalls, enough free stalls with a comfortable base. So ideally either sand or some kind of a deep bedding system so that the cow has a soft place to lay and good grip under her feet. Adequate space at the manger so that they can pretty well all eat at the same time without having to fight for a spot. And there's just a whole variety of other things. Clean, dry floors. Space around the robot, those are all considerations that affect the comfort of the cows in the barn.
What about accommodating normal behavior? And that's something you talk about as well. A cow's got to feel comfortable and be able to sort of go about its routine.
Yes, and in a parlor barn, you chase them to the milking parlor, so they don't have to express any behavior related to milking itself. In the robot barn, they're supposed to do that voluntarily under their own steam, and there will be some competition there. So I think you need an understanding of how to accommodate both the aggressive cow that's going to get milked lots of times because she's the boss and she can have access whenever she wants. But you also need to design it so that the timid cow has a good opportunity to go, doesn't end up having to fight her way in and so on.
Now, lame cows really almost bring the system to a grinding halt, right? I mean, it's so important to maintain, feet and legs.
Yes, if a cow doesn't have healthy feet, she's definitely not going to go to the robot on her own. So she becomes a fetch cow, and then she'll only get milked twice a day, and her production will suffer as a result. So yes, lameness is one of the biggest issues we need to prevent with robotic milking barns. It's important in every barn, but it's probably even more important in a robotic milking setting.
And you talked about a lot of things in an hour presentation. I suggest anybody who gets a chance to hear Jack talk about barns, do that. But a couple of more things we want to focus on. You talked about the difference between forced traffic and free traffic systems, and you're a free traffic guy.
Absolutely. I side on the side of cow comfort, and if the cow is going to be comfortable, she has to have the opportunity to go back and lay down or go back to the feed manger if she cannot get into the robot because other cows are using it and so on. And so the systems that involve forced traffic usually involve a commitment pen where once the cow enters that, she has no choice left other than to go through the robot before she can do anything else, before she can eat, before she can drink, before she can go and lay down again. And that means that a timid cow could spend several hours there because higher ranking cows always come into that commitment pen even after her, but then they beat her into the robot because they're more aggressive, and then she has to wait another 6 minutes, and another cow comes along and another 6 minutes, and so on and so forth. So especially when the robots are busy and close to capacity, that's really difficult. The other circumstance that does come up is that a robot is down because it's broke down, and now the 10 cows that are in the fetch pen or in the commitment pen, they can't go back and lay down. They have to wait till you get there to fix it.
Let's talk a little bit about orientation and placement of the robots in the barn.
Yeah, this is something that not a lot of people have paid attention to. I have done some research with a group of students I was working with in Holland. We looked at 12 barns, and we found that there were big differences in how likely cows were to use both robots in a group where they had access to two. If cows are trained on a robot where they turn left, they're less likely to visit a robot where they have to turn right. And so we learned that the way the robots are situated in the barn and also which way the cow enters and leaves the robot has an impact on how likely they are to use both of them so I mean, if they use both, then they will go to the other one if there's a cow in this one already, and so on. So I really like to plan barns to have all the robots face in the same direction if possible.
Hey, question on, you talked about it here, about how many cows per robot. Now, you can push it up to 70, but you're honing in on that 55 number around there for real profitability and a real good system.
Yeah, the tradition is 60. And when you have 65, you have more fetch cows, and you have fewer milkings per cow, and so you also are likely to get less production and fewer visits per cow. So it's a multifactorial thing where you have to look at how long the cows take to milk. Faster milking cows, you can handle more out of them on a robot than slow milking cows. At the production level, higher milking cows take longer to milk, and then also the number of cows in total. And I think we're learning as we look at this in greater detail, robots are less expensive to own than they used to be because you can borrow money fairly cheaply. Labor costs are going up. And so to me, the tipping point is probably closer to 55 cows than it is to 65 for sure, because life will be easier for you and for the cows if there is some more free time on the system.
Hey, we're down, final question, we're down here in Wisconsin. Robots big in Canada, haven't really got a big foothold in the U.S. And people always talk about the size of operations and the cost of robots. What's your thoughts on robots in the U.S.
And it is really starting to happen in a big way now. When the milk price was high a year ago, it was going really great, and now the wheels have come off a little bit again. But I think that the price of milk really is not a significant factor. You have to look at the cost of labor, because that's what you're doing, is replacing labor with a capital investment. So what's the cost of borrowed money? Relatively cheap. What's the cost of labor? Even in the US, it's going up and getting more costly. So I think robots are starting to look better and better even here, and the interest is definitely growing, because even if the milk price is low, if you lose less money milking with a robot than paying people to do it, it's still the better option.
Hey Jack, thanks for your time today. We'll catch up with you north of the border. How about that?
All right, that's great. Thank you very much.